Alright, hey everyone, this is Mia Lavers of Angel of Alchemy, and today I decided to do a video on what you should be taking to locals versus what you should be taking to a regional. Oh, gosh, there's a lot of glare on those glasses. Maybe we'll pop them off. Alrighty, so anyways, ignoring all the weird stuff falling down, we're gonna try to make this as neutral, I guess. It's just gonna be as natural as it could possibly be. I hate like all that fake stuff that you'll see. I want this to be just as awkward and just as weird as I am. But I see a lot of people online always asking other people like, hey, I'm going to my very first locals, I'm really nervous, I don't know what to bring, or I'm going to my very first regionals and I don't want to get stolen from. What do I do? So here's what you should bring to locals versus what you should be bringing to a regional. And for this video, we're going to be using my boyfriend's backpack. This thing is old and it's dirty, but it will work. It's a backpack. Any backpack that you have just laying around in the basement somewhere or really stuffed up in the attic, find it, clean it out. That will be your backpack to use. As long as it's not something super expensive that you don't mind going missing, it should be fine, right? Okay, so for your locals, I honestly suggest getting a binder for all your trades and a binder for collectible cards that you want to keep, just to keep them separate. However, if your trade binder isn't all that big and you have a lot of extra room in it, you can always just flip over to the back and use that as your collection binder area. But we, as a collective family, have 3 binders. We have our collection binder and our 2 trade binders, one of which is full of just monsters and the other is filled with extra deck monsters, spells, and traps. So I suggest bringing all the binders that you have, or at least your most expensive trade binder, the one that you think you'll actually be trading with people on. Another thing that I really strongly suggest bringing is your phone, which I don't currently have on me. I suggest always bringing your phone simply for using Troll and Toad and TCG Player, and don't use Amazon. That's a no-no. They shoot their prices way up in the sky. Use either Troll and Toad or TCG Player because those are the best for getting accurate card prices, and you don't want to be you don't want somebody to like jack you on a trade. You want to get the most even, most respectful, most valued trade possible. Some people trade on the penny, which is, it can be stressful, but you know what, that's just how they trade. Other people trade emotional value. It really depends on them, but most of the time you are going to be needing some form of just internet accessibility to get card prices so that you're making sure that you're getting a fair, equal trade. So, binders into the backpack. 1, 2, and 3. Now that we got our trades out of the way, let's talk decks. Honestly, at your locals, especially if you're going for the very first time, you won't know if it's going to be a more competitive locals or a more casual locals. So you're going to want to bring a variety of decks. However, if you only have one deck on you, that's okay. Just bring that one deck, and I'll get to what else you can bring later. But, you know, most deck boxes can hold 2 or more decks in them. This one currently has 2. They're my mixture of more competitive and more casual, so if you have a deck box that can carry 2, one of each, that's your favorite, go ahead and just bring that one deck box. However, if you don't know what you're going to be playing that night, bring as many as you want. Honestly, it's locals. You can always change your mind. You can always loan a deck to somebody else that you know will keep your cards safe if you feel comfortable in doing so. However, it's your first night, I don't suggest giving your deck away to just anyone. But honestly, at locals, it's your time to learn, experience, become a better player, get tips, So definitely bring more than just one deck if you have the option to. So deck boxes into the backpack. Alright, now that our backpack is really heavy, let's add more stuff to it. At locals, you will always want to have your custom-made Invoked 101 mat, obviously, right? So, I suggest bringing a mat. Bring a mat that has zones if you have one. It's kind of hard to see the zones on here. Just because people are more comfortable with it. However, at locals, it's not like, I mean, unless your locals are filled with a whole lot of jerks, it's not like they're gonna rule shark you on the fact that you have zones. So it's okay if you have a mat that doesn't have zones. Just let your opponent know that you don't have zones, and let them know that if they feel like there's a card out of place, whatever, they can ask you about where the placing is, and you'll try to match it up with their board a little better. So at least one mat. However, since this is locals, I do suggest bringing a second mat just in case you have a buddy that accidentally left theirs at home. You can loan it to them. It's just a really nice way of saying, hey, we're both dueling, we're both here to have fun or to learn or to be competitive or to build our skills or whatever. You're my opponent. I noticed you don't have a mat. Here's one, you know? So I do suggest bringing 1 to 2 mats into the backpack. There you go. And that is it, basically. Just foam, trade binder, collection binder, just so you can keep your cards separate from the more trades. Weird. Just so you can keep the cards that you've collected from trades out of your trade binder so that people don't ask you for them. Because it's always really awkward to be like, actually, no. And I do suggest bringing as many decks as you think possible, because the worst thing is whenever it's like you go into locals, you expect locals to be something or other, you expect to see this many decks or this many people playing a certain deck, and you go in there and it's completely different, and so you're like, well shoot, if I knew I would have brought this deck with me, you know? So I do suggest bringing a wide variety of decks for you to use. Speaking of which, if you only have one deck, or even if you have a few, I do suggest bringing decks that you are in the process of making, because it is locals and you're going to have a mixture of more casual players with the mixture of more competitive players, and together you can ask them for advice on how to make your deck and your strategy better. So if you're building a deck, I do suggest bringing it just to show to people. It's also going to help you remember what cards you need to trade for, and if people give you ideas on cards that would work really well in the deck, you can ask them if they have a copy on them, and if they do have a copy of that card, you can read it for yourself, decide if you want it, and then possibly trade for it. It just makes building your deck so much easier. So I do suggest bringing decks that are not quite finished to locals as well. Mike Evans. He's just laying on the bed. So anyways, now that we have locals out of the way, let's go to regionals. And I do suggest that if you've gone to locals a few times and you think it's a little more sketchy, follow the regional one. Or if it's your very first time going and you're not too sure how the people are going to be, definitely follow the steps of what you should be bringing to a regional. So let's dump out the backpack. Once again, I suggest getting a cheap backpack that you're not afraid of losing, even if it's just one of those weird stringed bags, you know. I forgot what they're called, but like sling backpacks or whatever. I suggest getting something cheap, something that you don't really mind going missing as much as that $300 backpack that you paid for to go to your college classes, you know. So for regionals, I suggest bringing only one mat. You do not want to be sharing any of your cards or toys. That's not a good word. I mean, you do not want to be sharing any of your cards, mats, any like items with anyone at a regional, because you don't know where they live. You don't know if they traveled 16 hours away. If they accidentally keep that card in their deck and they drive forever away, you're never going to see that card again, because most likely you're not going to have a way to contact them. Keep everything to a minimum. So we have one mat. Make sure it absolutely positively has zones on it. If you're afraid of using a custom mat, even if it has zones, get one of the Konami ones that definitely has zones. Like our Dark Neostorm mat. So I do suggest bringing one single mat. Make sure it has zones, just because at regionals they're gonna be more likely to rule shark you about zones and your card placement than they would at a locals. So one mat into the backpack. I suggest bringing only one deck box with one deck in it. Like I said, this carries two. Only bring one, because if you have any extra cards on you on the table at the time, you can get a game loss for it. So one deck, just whatever deck you're bringing, bring that one singular deck, and that's it. Sadly, that doesn't mean that you can change your mind right before the regional because you went around and asked your friends what they're playing. However, it does mean that you will at most lose that one deck, and although it would be tragic, you would not be losing your entire collection, you know? So one deck, one deck box. Make sure that your deck box, if anything, has a way of knowing that it's yours. Nod, for example, my boyfriend, has stickers all over his. Mine is just a plain black deck box because I don't really like changing it, but if there's a way for you to like take a piece of tape and write your name on it or something, I suggest doing that as well. Because if you tell people that you have a deck box missing and it's just plain black Yugo Pro deck box, most likely you're not going to find it. However, if you go, I have a deck box missing and it's absolutely covered in stickers, there's no way anyone's going to miss that that's your deck box, you know? So I do suggest being a little creative, sticking maybe something inside of it that says it's yours, duct taping something. But I get it if you don't want to ruin your deck box like me. That's just a small little suggestion. So deck box into the backpack. Alright, I do suggest bringing only one trade binder and possibly leaving your collection binder at home. However, after you go to your regionals quite a few times, if you notice that the people are really sweet, if you notice that nothing seems to have been negative that has happened at your regionals, I do suggest bringing your collection binder later in the future. But if it's your very first time going, bring only one binder, and make sure that it has a mixture of really good trades with really bad ones. Bad trades, I'm going to say low price trades, because there's going to be a variety of trading levels at your regional. There's going to be people looking for really expensive cards, and then there's going to be people looking for cards that they don't see too often in people's binders at their locals or at their hometown. So I do suggest bringing a wide variety of your collection that you're willing to trade into one trade binder, and leaving a few pages in the back for cards that you trade for. So one binder into the backpack. Alrighty, it doesn't matter how close your regional is to your hometown. I do suggest bringing a few extra things aside from the Yu-Gi-Oh products that I've just shown you. I do suggest bringing at least 2 bottles of water to keep you hydrated. At our regionals, we used to have water fountains. However, they started shutting the fountains off. So I do suggest bringing water bottles. I suggest bringing quite a few snacks, not only for the trip, but also for lunch, because lunch can be extremely expensive if they're doing some cafeteria like event for you, and you might not have time to go drive down the street to Subway in your break. So I do suggest bringing at least a few snacks on you, as well as your phone, because you never know when an emergency is going to happen. Also, like I said, TCG player, Troll and Toad, making sure people are jipping you on trades is really important, especially at a regional, because there's a difference between your locals, where you know everyone, versus a regional that's a whole room filled with people from all around, and you just don't know what they're like, you don't know who they are. So I suggest bringing way less to a regional than you would at locals. Another thing I do suggest for your first regional is making sure that you print off the card, your card listing sheets out the night before, so that you can write down your whole entire deck, sign it, and have it ready to go the next morning for your regional, because whenever you get there, it can be really hard to find those slips of paper that you need to fill out your deck. Not only that, there might not be enough pins, there might not be enough tables. So I do suggest printing off that deck list sheet the night before, filling it out, and having it ready to go the next morning just so that you know that you're prepared. Double check your deck, triple check it, quadruple check it actually. Make sure that you have exactly what you need. Play test it at least 3 times the night before, you know, and then just enjoy yourself, especially if it's your very first regional. Don't necessarily expect that you're going to top, but definitely try your darndest to do your best, and then every year after that try to do a little bit better. Work your way up the ladder. Now if you're like a freaking genius and you're just mega super good at this game and you're just blessed with that ability to be super great, then enjoy topping. But basically those are the differences between what you should be taking to locals versus what you should be taking to a regional. There is a huge difference between the two, and like I said, if you believe that your locals is a little sketchy or you're just a little bit nervous of what the people might be like there, follow the regional layout, including the bringing the water and the snacks, because you know game stores can be pretty expensive whenever it comes to their snacks. It's like $1 for like a little bag of chips. You know, so I do suggest bringing your own water and snacks. Just keep you hydrated, just keep you healthy. You know, just little things that can help you. But whenever you are going to your very first locals and regionals, I have one piece of advice, and it's honestly that you should not be scared, because honestly I was kind of nervous but mostly excited for my very first time going to locals and a regionals, and it turned out to be 1,000 times better than I ever could imagine. And locals is going to help you so much, whether you are a casual or competitive player, it doesn't matter. You will find new experience in going to your locals and talking to other Yu-Gi-Oh players of all different kinds, and they're going to help you with your deck. And if you let them know, hey, I want a more casual deck, they're going to help you make the best darn casual deck ever. If you want a more competitive deck, they're going to give you the best advice in the entire world. So going to these places is definitely going to give you the experience you need to just round yourself out as a player, to make yourself a little bit better, to make yourself a little more experienced, and the experience of just meeting all these wonderful Yu-Gi-Oh players from all around is just phenomenal. Whenever it comes to locals, the best and most exciting thing about locals is that there are people in your area who love the game just as much as you do. So it's great to find others that have the same passion as you, you know? Well, anyways, I think I rambled on long enough. I hope this has helped and that it wasn't just really awkward. But thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. And here he is. Thank you. Bye!